Hey everyone, my name is Patrick Akil, and for today's episode, we cover diversity in tech. We start off discussing AI and the biases that we see in there, because those biases are a result of the teams being not as diverse as they should be when working on those solutions. Joining me at the table is someone who's very passionate about this subject, Weers, software engineer over at Ordina. Don't forget to like and subscribe when you're on YouTube, and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Enjoy!
Welcome to Beyond Coding, a dive into the world of successful people in IT. From your sponsors, Zebia, creating digital leaders. Here's your host, Patrick Akil.
Hey Kaya, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank
really
you.
Happy to have you. And I invited you on to talk about diversity in tech. But I first want to kick off a subject which is a bit more tech focused. And it's mainly about AI. You told me there's a lot of biases in AI,
Yeah.
Lots of stuff I don't know about. So let's start off with that. What are kind of the, how do I state this? Why is diversity very important in AI first and foremost?
Yeah, so to make sure I don't tell you everything in once,
Yeah.
because it's a really big topic and I'm really passionate about it.
Yeah.
But to begin with, AI uses data to find logic, to have conclusions and results.
Yeah.
So AI is based upon really big sets of data.
Mm-hmm.
And with this data, they find logic and then in the end have results.
Yeah.
And these results can be really biased because the data itself can contain bias.
Yeah.
So how does it work? Because you use data from years and years ago,
Mm-hmm.
the whole society has already bias in itself.
Okay.
So those data from the past will have bias.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. Amazon created an algorithm for recruitment.
Yeah.
So instead of going to all the papers themselves, they wanted to have the machine doing that for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they used their data on people working with them for the last years.
Yeah.
And what happened? The algorithm said that all the women who applied were not good
Okay.
for tech jobs, for software development, they use it.
Yeah.
And that was just because there are way more men in tech. And the computer learned that apparently gender
Yeah.
is a way to see if someone is good in this job or not.
Exactly.
So that's what you see in a lot of algorithms and AI. So everything that's based upon data from the past,
Yeah.
it will learn from how it's currently working.
Yeah.
So if you have any bias in it, and there's always bias in it, you will have that in the future and probably reinforce it because it's getting bigger.
Yeah. But then it's not necessarily that the AI is wrong, right? Because it found a pattern, apparently is very much
Yeah.
male orientated, probably white and in a certain age range. So it's like, oh, this is probably more likely to
Yeah.
get hired then because of the past history there.
If you start about bias in AI, there's always a discussion, but a computer can't be biased or the algorithm itself isn't biased.
Yeah.
But for me, that's not really a relevant discussion because it's all about how you choose to name it. So yeah, is really the algorithm biased
Yeah.
or is the data itself or the outcome or whatever you do with it?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's if you use the results out of that algorithm,
Yeah.
you can give some people a better treatment than other people.
Exactly.
And that's not allowed.
Yeah.
And of course, the algorithm doesn't know what you're going to do with the result.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit difficult. Is it right? Is it good? An algorithm can find logic. So it finds a relation, but it doesn't have to be that's the reason something is happening.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it can find out in this case, like, okay, it's correct that there are more men.
Yeah.
But is that the relation you want them to find?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a correlation that it found. It's not the one it should focus on.
Yeah.
And I think AI is now in a position, first of all, AI is going to probably transform a lot of the things we're doing. But if it is in those key places, right, recruitment, making sure people get hired in the first place, it's now even in positions that people get loans or people get parole, right? If it already has that bias in there, then it's going to be very dangerous.
Yeah, I think the impact is huge.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was thinking, okay, it will have some impact and you will notice when it's there. But the problem is that because algorithms are in every single tool, but also services and healthcare, how do you find out it is biased?
Exactly.
Because sometimes it will be obvious. In this case, someone noticed that all the women were rejected.
Yeah.
But what if it's not obvious? Or what if you found out way too late?
Yeah.
There's also a system in the United States, Compass it's called, I thought. And it's meant to determine if someone who offended a crime will offend again.
Okay.
So do it again or some other crime. And it has really had a bias against Black people.
Yeah.
And of course, it's like has a huge impact of people.
Exactly.
And there was I think the false positives for Black people were way higher than for the white people, but also the other way around, that white people had a lot of times that the algorithms say there were not dangers, and in fact they were.
Exactly.
And the way how that they thought like, oh, but we didn't include the color of the people. Yeah. So if that's out of the data, how can that data still has a bias?
Exactly.
But the problem is things like the color of people, gender. Most of the time you can find them in data, even though they're not in there directly.
Exactly.
So they could find it in the place where people live, in the things they spend, how things work. So it is really difficult to know if you have data with information that can lead to the bias reinforced by the algorithm.
Yeah. It's
so
weird.
It is really difficult, but it's also really important if you see what the impact is on people's life.
Exactly. I think it's very hard to get it right. But what you say makes total sense in that kind of the culture that you have is what you're doing on a day-to-day, right? It's not necessarily the color of your skin. It's what you purchase, where you live, what you do, even how much money you make. Like all those little data points will add up to you being you or you being part of a larger entity. And apparently we're already kind of prejudiced in some sort of way because otherwise the AI wouldn't be. Because I think the AI is kind of a reflection of what we already have as a society, right? How we think, because we've created the AI in the first place.
Yeah, so indeed the problem with that algorithm from the United States was that there are way more Black people in prison.
Yeah.
And that is already a huge problem there, that they have already a lot of racism, which lead to more people in prison unfairly. And that comes back in the algorithm.
Exactly.
But also that algorithm didn't determine at one person if they were a high-risk offender, but they based it upon groups.
Exactly.
So if you fit in one of the groups that was a high risk, you will be labeled as high risk instead of looking at your own position.
Yeah.
And
so
I think
percentages.
And that's a problem, and which a lot of algorithms have, or AI in general, that people are placed upon because of certain parts. They're placed in a box.
Yeah.
And if you're in that box,
you're screwed, basically.
Yeah. Then a lot of things happen, and you have troubles getting out of that box.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be like that, right? That the machines are already prejudiced against you. That is the worst thing that can happen to you, because they're supposed to help the whole situation, right? Help us make better decisions than we can as humans, because we as humans are already biased. We already have our own prejudices, even though we don't even know they're there. They are there.
Yeah.
They're always going to be there. The only thing you can do is be more aware that they're there and then maybe act a bit accordingly. But in the things we create, they're also there. I think it's very hard to create something in which it's not there, because we're the people that are creating it.
It is really difficult. So, of course, I have a lot of biases too.
Yeah.
And it's needed. It's how our brains understand the world. They put people in boxes to understand it. So you cannot say, oh, I want a world without.
Yeah.
But at least try to not make them bigger and try to get them less. And if we base everything upon the data of the past, we will just relive the past.
Exactly.
Instead of being aware that it's there and actively seek how to improve it.
Yeah.
And that may be that people can say, oh, but we want AI to find logic that we normally shouldn't have or wouldn't have found.
Yeah.
So it's a bad thing if you're going to interrupt and if you're going to change your data and not give all the data because you wanted to find things that you couldn't see for yourself.
Yeah.
And of course that's true, but if you do it like that, you will have the same world as yesterday. So I think it's really important to be aware and also really think before creating the algorithm if there are things you want to change, or at least you don't want to take them with you.
Yeah. So on a more technical level, I'm very solution oriented usually, but I have no clue how to solve it, right? If the data which you're basing your decisions on already has that bias, how do you make sure the bias is less basically in the decisions that you make then?
Yeah, so of course the data already has it, but it's still really important to look what data you're giving to the system.
Yeah.
So still you can see, okay, what do we have in it?
Yeah.
Gender, maybe you can take it out. What other things can lead to gender? For example, with the Amazon recruitment algorithm, they found out that there were certain schools that more women were attending, or sports that were done more by women. So you can maybe look, okay, what clues can we not give the machine to take with them? And really see what data is needed and will be valuable.
Yeah.
So looking at your data is still really important.
Yeah.
But also if you have a more diverse team working on the algorithm, you will earlier in the early stage, you will see if the algorithm is biased.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just way easier to notice a gap that you're missing certain people if you're one of those people.
Exactly.
It's just really easy or way easier because you will always look from your own perspective.
Yeah.
That's just our nature. That's not a problem. But the problem is that the people who are working on that AI solutions nowadays are mostly white men.
Exactly.
So it is really important to have a more diverse group of people working on it.
Yeah, exactly.
To prevent having it only from their perspective.
Yeah, they can't know what they don't know, right?
No, it's and also for them, because we won't be able to change this in a year.
Yeah.
So in a year we won't have complete diverse groups. Mm-hmm. So it's still really important for everyone to be to know that there is bias.
Yeah.
Because it is in your nature. It's not that people do it on purpose.
Yeah.
But it will help if you're building the system and you're really thinking, okay, what if I was someone else?
Yeah.
What if I was a woman or disabled? Or there are so many things that you don't see from your own perspective that can help.
Yeah.
And of course, the best is to have those people in your team.
Exactly.
But if that's not possible, try at least to think about their perspective.
Yeah.
Because I was really shocked. I read about that. It's not about AI, but still about perspective and data. Mm-hmm. That cars were always tested with only dummies based on the average man.
Okay.
And that's also in the law that they need to do that.
Okay.
And they're currently changing that law and also have a dummy crash body for a woman.
Exactly.
But in the law, they state that it has to be on the passenger seat.
Oh, really?
And not on the driver's seat.
That's okay. That's
I was
weird.
Like, why?
Yeah, exactly. That's like a half measure.
Yeah, and also, how can you be conscious about the part? Yeah. You know, apparently, that there's something wrong.
Yeah.
But how can you then fix it in that way?
Fix it half.
But for me, it felt like, that industry has always been really male-dominated.
Yeah.
And I think that people just didn't realize that a woman is more different than a man, except only for a bit smaller.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there are more parts that are different. And because they found out, because of the lack of using this dummy, that they had like, I think 70% more chance to get injured in a car accident.
Yeah.
And 17% more chance to die.
Exactly.
I was like,
That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's
and the
way
thing
too
is,
much.
they were talking about, so currently they do use those card image.
Yeah.
And also a lot of companies or car companies are using also the woman crash dummy on the driver's seats.
Yeah.
Even though it's not needed by the law. But still, how often do you drive a car from 15 years old?
Exactly.
Those are never tested, for a woman.
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
that
good
feels
to
kind
know.
of dangerous. Yeah, it feels very dangerous.
So for me, all those things sometimes feel far away and like, yeah, would they really use it like that? But then I notice, it is really important to get the different view, because things that feel so obvious are apparently not noticed.
Exactly. Right.
I think, how can you not notice that? Yeah. But that's easy because now I know, and it's from my own perspective.
Exactly. It starts with that awareness, right? Because once you're aware, you're going to look for it. You're going to feel accountable to do it the right way, in the most diverse way, right? If it's in AI and it's key decision points, right? Figuring out who's more likely to be a criminal even.
Yeah.
You want that as unbiased as possible. And then it comes down to, okay, who's creating it, right? Because those people also need to be as unbiased. And as you mentioned, it's not your own fault if you're biased, right? It's based on your preferences, your experiences, and your past history with working with other people or whatever. And the best group to then do that is the most diverse one, right?
Yeah.
Multiple perspectives, multiple environments they grew up in, multiple ethnicities and cultures, all of those things combined make probably then the most unbiased solution.
Yeah.
But to get there in the first place, we need to fix our problem in that we only have, especially in the tech space, it's a very white male dominated space, right? It grew into that. I don't know how it even got to this point, but it's way higher than it should be. And there's no evidence that males are better at tech than females or whatever.
No, and the funny thing, there are countries that have more women in tech than men.
Yeah.
So I think it's really a culture thing instead of skills.
Exactly. But it's kind of a chicken and the egg problem, as I always say, in that, well, if you look at the people you hire, you told me this, you're going to look at people that are likely to be your colleagues and you're going to look at yourself and you're probably going to relate more with those people that are most like you. But in that way, you're also not going to hire for diversity, because you're going to hire for kind of your own self-image or that of your colleagues. So then it's kind of a self-fulfilling cycle in that you're going to hire for what you are. And there needs to be other diverse people in place for you to hire diverse people. But which one comes first then?
I think that's difficult, but the good thing is that diversity and inclusion is getting a bigger topic nowadays.
Absolutely, yeah.
So for me, if I see the difference in the number of women, for example, on stage on conferences, that's way more than only a couple of years ago.
Exactly.
So I think that the tech sector, seeing that they need more women or diversity in general, people know it. And of course, you don't change that over in a couple of years.
Exactly.
But the awareness really makes sense for if you're interviewing someone for your team.
Yeah.
People tend to look like people who look like them.
Yeah.
But if you're aware, then they notice, oh, okay, that person looks a lot like me, but also has the same way of working like I have.
Exactly.
Is that really helpful for the team?
Yeah.
Because we also, separate from gender or any other differences, you also have differences in communication, way of working. There are so many differences, and it's always good to have people from different styles in your team.
Exactly.
And I think that people are already aware from that part.
Yeah.
For example, I know that if I get in a team, we're thinking, okay, what kind of person are you? Because we're now with a lot of people who like to go into the details.
Yeah.
Maybe we need someone who have more the overview and can take decisions.
Exactly.
So I noticed that we are already doing an analysis. Okay, what does our team has, and what do we need from different perspectives? We can also do that for other parts in the differences.
Yeah.
And of course, you don't want to say, okay, checklist. We need a woman. We need someone of color.
Yeah.
You don't want to make people feel like they're in your team because they will add to the diversity.
Exactly.
So people really need to see the added value and not just select someone because.
Exactly. I think it's very delicate, but that would be horrible. If I were to be put in that situation and they would say, we only hired you to add to our diversity, I'd be like, man, that sucks, right? Not because of what I bring to the table. Yeah.
So you don't want that. But I think that what I usually see is that the developers can choose their own teammates so that it's not just a manager somewhere up who chooses it.
Yeah.
And you will notice that you won't trick a developer by saying that person is really bad in their job, but it will add to our diversity. I think that most of the people won't agree because they know that they have to work with that person.
Exactly.
And that they have to build a product together.
Yeah.
So I think that, people still look for someone they think is good.
Yeah.
But it helps if it's maybe not just another version of yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think, it is difficult.
Absolutely.
But I think we're already on a good way trying to make it more diverse, but also more welcoming for other people.
Yeah, I get that. I think every company is getting more awareness, right? Just because we're talking about this a lot more, people are getting aware of their own biases.
Yeah.
Even though I think 20 years ago, we weren't as aware. We were just going along with whatever.
Yeah.
But because everything is evolving so fast, also there's a lot more information nowadays. People can educate themselves. And I love that it's being put under kind of a microscope in a way, in that we should change this, right? This is an existing problem. And if no one acts, it's not going to solve itself, basically. Yeah. We're in a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And we need to kind of break the cycle. I also love that you say, right, look for your weaknesses. I used to think, if I had a team of Patricks, everything would just be smooth sailing. We would get stuff done. And now I know, man, I'm actually not good at a lot of things also.
Yeah.
So I would need people that kind of make my weaknesses less of a weakness, right? That's one of their strengths. Yeah. And then how we collaborate, we can make use and be as most effective as we should be. I think with diversity is exactly the same, right? If you still think that a team of yous or a team of me's in this case will be the best performing team, I think that's already a wrong attitude and a wrong mindset. Yeah.
I honestly don't really recognize that, but that's maybe because you also, if you dive in a male-dominated world, you can feel more insecure because you feel like, okay, do I belong here?
Yeah.
Is this my place? Do they want me here?
Yeah.
So I think it's also really important to make sure that people feel welcome.
Yeah.
And that they think they belong there.
Exactly.
And I think that's something we have to do as a whole society, or at least as a community in tech, to make sure everyone is welcome and it feels like you can be yourself.
Exactly.
I think that in the beginning when I joined tech, I felt like, okay, you have to be one of the guys because that's the best thing. Mm-hmm. I have to join their conversations, and if I get to a conference, they're like, here, you have an extra large t-shirt. Be really happy with it. I was like, maybe, I don't know. So, indeed, I had to do some painting in the house. So I was like, okay, I can wear that. And only in a couple of years, I've seen that now they have t-shirts in a woman's sizes.
Yeah.
And I don't really care about the t-shirt size.
Exactly.
I care about that I feel seen, that I also belong there, and not what I usually had the feeling, okay, it's a men's party and I'm secretly joining. So I don't mind that they have a t-shirt not have a t-shirt size for me because I'm not the target group.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I didn't notice that I was bothered by the t-shirt until I found out there are a conference where they have my t-shirt size.
Exactly.
And it was just a feeling of, okay, so I also belong here.
Yeah.
And I think that's just really important.
Absolutely.
To let people feel it's where they belong, because then they will also work better.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's part of our community to make that better. But also for myself, I think that's also something we have to look for children already.
Yeah.
Because it's getting better, but you still have that people have the feeling this kind of toys are for girls and this type of toys are for boys.
Yeah.
And let's give the girls toys like dolls and give the boys toys to build stuff.
Yeah.
And I think from there it grows into that women should do more social jobs and men should do the technical jobs.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, for example, I never thought about a career in tech.
Yeah.
Like, what should I do with computer?
Yeah.
But the fact is, I really loved doing mathematics.
Okay.
So it wasn't that weird of a career to go into.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, it's boring and it's not for me. And now I love it. But I think that you have a lot to do there to make sure that a child is just a child and they can do whatever they like.
Yeah.
And if it's fine if there's still more women or men in certain areas.
Exactly.
As long as people have the feeling that they can choose what they like instead of have to behave in the way society expects from them.
Yeah. In that box that we already talked about, right?
Yeah.
It's the society that creates the boxes. And you're already being put in there basically by virtue of you being born and being either gender.
Yeah.
There's multiple genders nowadays. But you're already being put in a box, right? Yeah. You're already given certain tools that are expected of you. And if you want to try something else, you're not even going to consider it because that's not how you grew up.
Yeah.
But I think creating that awareness, first of all, within the society and already within organizations is really just going to help. But it's a gradual change, right? There's no silver bullet that all of a sudden it's done. We basically got here by hundreds and thousands of years of experiencing the world as a culture. And here's where we are. And the next step is kind of morphing and being more generalized and more inclusive in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It will just take a lot of time, but it's fine as long as there is improvement.
Exactly.
Because also for women rights, you will see that through history, it always went up. Yeah. So as long as it goes up and we try to improve it, we will at least have it better in the future than now. Yeah. And now we see that also, I think sexuality is also something that I'm not sure if people feel welcomed in all places in tech.
Yeah.
I think for all those parts, we have to really think, okay, how would they feel? And if is this a place where everyone feels welcome?
Yeah.
And there's no e-learning to help people do this right.
Exactly.
You can only help do all the things. So maybe there's an e-learning that helps one person. Yeah. And maybe me speaking to someone helps one person realize how I feel in the tech world.
Yeah.
And maybe I have to talk with someone of color and they make me realize that I still maybe say things that aren't good for them. So I don't know. You're not aware. So I think that at least making it something to discuss, that you feel free to say something about it. And I think that would already help.
Yeah. It starts with the environment, right? If it's already taboo to speak up, even about diversity as a subject, that's not a good environment to be in, right? Then you can't really speak your mind or what you think can contribute and benefit your environment. That's not a good environment.
Yeah.
If organizations are getting a bit more aware of diversity and they want to diversify kind of their leadership or their management layer or anyone that's in there, what would you advise to kind of start doing that? Let's say we're in a tech world, a product company, it's going to be male dominated, white male.
Yeah.
They've probably read about diversity or educated themselves a bit more and they want to start hiring more people. But as you mentioned, you don't want to hire a diversity hire. You want to hire the good people that can also contribute to your diversity. How would you do that as an organization?
So what I think is important that we tend to see the world in a certain way.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of conclusions we already made about, for example, if you want to hire someone, okay, if we just put out the position, then people will apply and we will find the best person for the job.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Maybe you should also approach someone you think is good, but maybe that person didn't have the nerves of the feeling that he or she would be good enough for the position.
Okay.
Because, for example, with the talking or people talking on conferences, I've always seen nearly only male on stage, and I've never had the feeling I can be on that stage too.
Yeah.
And for me, it really helped seeing another woman. But how I got into speaking on conferences is just someone encouraged me a lot.
That's great.
Not just a bit, a lot.
Yeah.
And saying, try it. Okay, go at least with me to some speaker encouragement network thing.
Yeah.
So in the end, that's how I got there. Not because for myself, I would send a call for papers.
Exactly.
Or the proposal. So I think that's the same for other positions.
Yeah.
Try to think in a different way. Okay, we always do it this way.
Yeah.
But does that get us the right people?
Exactly.
Maybe there are more people out there really qualified for the job. You don't have to hire someone just because of your diversity. But that person didn't feel like he or she belong.
Exactly.
So maybe that's already a mind shift to start thinking, how can we reach people that we maybe haven't spoken before?
Exactly. It's really just, you're presenting an opportunity, right? And it can either be speaking on a conference or an open job position. And if you bring those to the people that you want because they contribute to your diversity, I think that's great, right? You would never know that's an option for you unless someone said, listen, I think you're great at this and kind of pushed you in that direction, right? I think what you see on stage, if you don't see yourself standing on stage or someone that's kind of a reflection of you, you're never going to try that. You're going to be like, well, that's not for me or for people from my background, or I would never see myself on there, because you actually don't have someone on there that looks like you. Yeah, I think it starts very small in that way already.
Yeah, so role models are really important, because that can, just one person doing it can give you the feeling that you can do it too.
Yeah.
So I gave a couple lessons on a primary school about tech, but it was really the basics.
Yeah.
And for example, I played a robot and they had to program me eating a sandwich.
Love that.
Yeah, it was really, the kids had so much fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But also, you already saw them thinking about, they first said something like, put butter on the sandwich.
Yeah.
I was like, error, because how can I, oh no, I forgot, I put the whole...
the stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, don't do that. And in the end of the lessons, I noticed there were a lot of girls really enthusiastic. And you could see that also because I'm not that old yet. So for them, it's of course still a big gap, but they could a bit say like, yeah, I like you. And then they could see themselves doing something like that.
Exactly.
So I think that's something really small, but it helps them seeing somewhere in the life someone doing something what usually I wouldn't thought about it.
Exactly. It goes from I really like you as an adult, because apparently kids look up to adults, to I want to be like you, right? And that could be the same in what you're doing, what you're presenting, or how you're paying it forward, right? Because you educating kids is kind of paying it forward for those kids that also want the same career in tech.
Yeah.
Or kind of the same way in their career as well. I think it starts small and it needs to be kind of everywhere. But it starts with that awareness first and foremost.
Yeah.
And then we can actually start making those little contributions. And hopefully those add up and create those more inclusive and more diverse groups that we're aiming for, right? I think as an organization, it's going to start in your hiring process, right? Already, as you mentioned, reaching out to those more diverse groups, probably figuring out what the bias already is in your recruitment process.
Yeah.
And then shifting it, right? Making it less bias.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the opposite of bias. I'm going to go with less bias or removing the bias there. And then you've hired for those, but those still need to grow into those role model positions, right? I think management or even upper level management, that you would still have to kind of focus on then. Make sure the people that you hire for within those diversity groups can also thrive within your organization.
Yeah.
Because just hiring them is not going to be enough.
No, so it's the hiring part and making sure your organization is good for them too.
Exactly.
So I think that we also use that, for example, if I read about the position and the first thing was about the fancy car you got and a lot of salary and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that in general, I'm really speaking general, men are more attracted to things like salary, and women are more attracted to things like why I do this and the goal of why I do it, really in general. So I noticed that if I see a position was written like that, of course, I also want a good salary, but it's not for me the main thing to accept a job.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of also approaching, but you can also see that in your organization. The way you promote people, is it done by saying making yourself really visible?
Yeah.
And if we're saying, I'm the best, look at me, I'm the best.
Yeah.
Some organizations work that way, and that's the only way how you get higher and in that position.
Yeah.
And we see that minority groups don't do it like that.
Exactly.
They are more in the shadow, trying
reserved.
not to outstand, reserved, and still have to feel like they deserve it. So if you're going to wait until those people stand up and say, look at me, I'm your next boss.
Yeah, you can wait forever.
Yeah, maybe. And then you can say, okay, but is that their problem? Shouldn't they be more, be more in the spotlight?
Yeah.
Or is it the culture of the company who shouldn't be that male dominated in their way of thinking about their company?
I think it's easy to say it's them. They should be more like the rest of the people.
Yeah.
But if the rest of the people is already kind of generalized, then so is your decision-making process going to be. So then exactly as you say, the decision-making process might be wrong. And you need to look at other qualities, right? Already the definition of what is good, what makes someone good at what they're doing, is very vague, right? That's very subjective. Yeah. It's very much opinionated based on the people that make those decisions, right? And someone can really just add a lot of value, but you're not going to see it. And that will be a shame, right? Just because of the virtue of you're not seeing it, they're adding so much value. You're not going to promote them because you're not seeing it. That would be a shame.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for managers or anyone in a lead position to be aware of it and look to people in a different way.
Yeah.
So I had a lead at ING where I previously worked, and they were giving me a promotion. And I was really surprised because we never talked about that promotion.
Yeah.
And he was saying, Kaya, everyone I have, I'm coaching, so all the persons were all men.
Yeah.
They all asked, okay, how do I get to the new promotion? What do I need to do? How do I get to that promotion as fast as possible?
Very assertive.
And he said, you never asked about what to do for a promotion.
Yeah.
So for me, it really helped that he was aware of it and really looked at, okay, but she didn't ask, but I still think she is already at that next level.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
haven't thought about it myself.
Yeah.
And I really like that he could see it in that way.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that for many people, and it's not on purpose, but if you're used to people asking and knowing then, okay, probably they're ready.
Yeah.
And not looking at the people not asking, I can totally imagine. So I think that's really great, but that could help everyone in. But how do you get there? It is difficult because you have to change the way you always did something.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's difficult for everyone.
Yeah, I think what might help is just bringing in an outside perspective, right? Even to just contribute to certain conversations, to be like, guys, this is kind of weird, or I don't see it this way, even though everyone else agrees, right? Just that little seed of doubt, I think, would already be a lot in kind of having that conversation. right? Why is that? What is your point of view? What is your perspective?
Yeah.
Why do you say that? And then you create your own awareness. But I think it's a hard skill. I think it's going to be more required within those upper layers of management, within the leaders that we have, that they have those qualities of inclusiveness and openness, and they see things regardless of their bias. Right?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Indeed, being open and looking instead of trying to look in your normal paths.
Yeah.
But it is really difficult.
Exactly. You're not used to that.
No, but also what helps is is speaking up by the others.
Okay.
So I noticed when I started in tech, I was a bit shy and I was thinking, okay, maybe I have to let the men say whatever they say and that's how it is.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, if they say something I don't think is friendly for women or someone of color or someone with another sexuality, those jokes I will now say, okay, I get it's a joke, I don't want to attack you, but it can really be really offended for someone.
Yeah.
I think if we speak up for each other, it will make the environment more inclusive.
I agree.
It is really difficult to say it for yourself.
Yeah.
Because I noticed when I started, I wouldn't say something about inappropriate comments.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking, I still don't like them being made to me. But also, it will draw back another girl who starts and gets to a meetup as the only girl there.
Yeah.
So now I notice, okay, but me saying something will help her.
Exactly.
Or will help someone else. So I think I will now earlier say something about anything that I think is really inappropriate to what minority group.
Yeah.
And I hope that will, in the end, let people think about it.
Exactly.
Because of course it isn't meant offensive.
Yeah.
Most of the time it is really as a joke.
Yeah.
But a joke in an environment where you are the only one to what the joke is about.
Yeah, to laugh about it.
It's not really that great.
Exactly. Yeah. I think when someone says that to you, right, that's not really appropriate, or maybe you should phrase it differently because that might hurt someone. I think the worst thing you can do is lash back, right? You're not being attacked as a person.
Yeah.
It's the way you behave. And why wouldn't you change your behavior to be more inclusive, right? To include everyone in the joke that you're making. You're not doing it out of harm, but you are harming, right?
Yeah.
And we're trying to resolve that because that's not really okay. I think if you're more aware and more open to that, then just change it. It's also not going to go overnight like that.
No.
I still say guys a lot if I'm talking about a greater group of people. I'm trying to change that, but it doesn't happen overnight. I still say it.
No, but also I think what the difficulty is with this, that you don't want to get too sensitive.
Exactly.
Or too easily offended. And that's also something because there are so many men in tech.
Yeah.
I also don't want to have that every conversation with me is about the woman.
I get that.
And it's about how it should change.
Yeah.
Or that they get the feeling that if I say, okay, I really don't like the diversity now, that they feel offended. Because no, you're not the cause of it.
No.
There are other parts. So I think that's always finding a balance between how do you get really an open conversation instead of that it will feel like one group against the other and that it's a really sensitive topic, because you can still make jokes about my feeling of direction. Yeah. It's really bad and I get lost in every building. Yeah. We can make jokes about it. That's fine. And we can make, it's not that you cannot make jokes about women or men or whoever in general. Yeah. It just, sometimes it can go too far. Or you have to see, do you know each other already? Yeah. If you know each other longer, then you know what you can say.
Yeah, because you're already included in that way.
Yeah.
Right. But if someone's from an outside perspective, they're not going to like the culture if it's joke after joke kind of against them.
Yeah.
Right, then it's not funny. I think it's hard to balance that or to figure out that balance. So for me personally, I just try and kind of don't say anything about that. Basically, I have horrible sense of direction. You can make fun of that, but it's not because I'm a guy. It's just because it's me as a person, right? I make jokes of it myself.
Yeah.
And then people feel at ease and we can joke about that. But I'm not going to make jokes just because I'm generalizing and and kind of upholding those boxes I have in my head.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt someone because of the things I'm saying.
No, and I think, it's really about finding that balance, because I really like making jokes, and most of my jokes are kind of mean. I'm always on that edge of, is it?
Yeah.
But most of the time they work out fine because I know people and I know what to say to who.
Yeah.
But I've also had that one joke and then I thought, was that person happy with it?
Yeah.
But then later on I was asking, okay, sorry.
Check up.
I made a joke, but I really had the feeling that, it wasn't really a good one and it was offended for you. So then I'm sorry, it wasn't meant that way.
Exactly.
So, I'm all for finding the balance, because I don't want that we get all serious and
censored.
Don't think that we cannot say something. And also making jokes about the differences can sometimes be a way to make it more soft.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem is making jokes about someone who's really in the minority already. Yeah. So they don't have someone to stand with them in that joke.
Exactly. Yeah. I think self-humor is the best way in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we covered a lot of ground, starting off from kind of bias in AI, and to, well, first of all, AI is going to change a lot of things that we do, but people still need to change the AI. Yeah. Right. And really removing that bias there is, you need those diverse groups, right? Not only in AI, but also in the car manufacturing industries that we have. Even with the car doll examples that you have, that still baffles my mind. But it's a great example of how diverse groups lead to better resolutions, right? Even better legislation in some aspects, in regulations as well. Is there anything that we missed in kind of that conversation that we had?
I think I can talk for hours.
Yeah.
I don't think that's really the purpose now. No, I think if you're interested in something, look it up, because also for bias in AI, there are a lot of tools to help you find that bias. So if you're aware, there are tools to help you in guiding if there is bias. You don't have to do anything from just your own mind.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we need those tools. Yeah, we're going to need those. Thank you for coming on, Kaya. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, let's. I think we're gonna keep talking after this, but we'll end it for the show.
Yeah,
that's Kaya Weers, everyone.
Beyond Coding. From your sponsors, Zebia, creating digital leaders.